everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Today I will give you some updates about the CCP's 6th plenary session that just finished today in Beijing, as well as the current COVID situation in China. Then I will discuss in detail a very shocking price table of organ procurement fees from Henan Province I recently discussed. What lies behind that terrible table and why the West is also responsible for the CCP's anti-humanity crimes. Before we go to our topics today, I'd like to correct a mathematical mistake I made in my last show. I said that 900,000 CCP members were removed from the party in the first 5 years after Xi Jinping came to power, and that accounts for 9.5% of the CCP members. Actually, it should be 0.95%. I guess my mind wasn't working properly when I looked at my calculator. I do apologize for the mistake, and I'm grateful that a viewer has kindly pointed out this mistake for me. The CCP's 6th plenary session closed today, that's November 11th. As expected, the third resolution on the CCP's major achievements and historical experience was passed. The CCP calls it a landmark one. See this picture? Everyone raises his or her hand. 100% of the participants agreed on everything the party says. It is indeed a landmark resolution for the party, as it is only the third one in the CCP's 100 years long history. The first resolution was passed in 1945, before the CCP came to power, and that one established Mao's leadership position in the party. The second one was passed in 1981 after the Cultural Revolution, and that one established Deng Xiaoping's leadership position in the party. The function of the both first and second resolution was to correct the directional mistakes made by the previous CCP leaders and to establish a new leader. For example, the second resolution admitted that the party or the party's leader, Chairman Mao, did make a mistake by launching the Cultural Revolution, and the party is now correcting its own mistake and leading the country to another victory. The party is always great because it always corrects its own mistakes, etc. But the third resolution is different from the previous ones. It didn't need to overthrow any previous leaders or to correct any previous mistakes to establish a new leader. On the contrary, just like what Xi Jinping said before, we shouldn't use the first 30 years of the CCP's history to deny the second 30 years, or use the second 30 years to deny the first 30 years. So this new resolution actually acknowledges all the previous CCP leaders and their achievements. Whatever they did, or no matter how contradicting their policies were, they were all great leaders of the CCP, and they had all made great contributions. So now it is time for Xi Jinping to lead the party and the country to another better time, when China will achieve great national rejuvenation and bring a shared future to mankind, etc. So that's a little bit of an update on the CCP's important closed-door meeting in Beijing. Although the power struggle is surely still going on and could get worse in the future, on the surface, Xi has everything under control for now. Next, let me give you a little bit of an update on the CCP virus situation in China. Up to now, the new outbreak has reached provinces in China, with Jilin province as the latest victim. The CCP's zero tolerance policy is being questioned by more and more people. It seems that many people have really gotten very tired of this hysterical pandemic prevention policy. Let's watch a short video first.
我想说世界万物一切都不经意，那不星河中一切皆是你，一尘不染的风景关于你，是我心底的谜。
Well, what do you think? Little kids were not allowed to leave school while they waited for their test results. So this second video shows tens of thousands were locked up inside Shanghai Disneyland only because one woman who visited the park on the previous day had just tested positive. Sometimes you really want to question the rationale behind all this madness. When you wait in line for in an airport, they tell you to stay at least 5 feet away from one another, but when large crowds were forced to do the test, nobody bothers about social distancing at all. Seems when you line up to do the test, the virus is not an issue anymore. But when you line up for food or for an airplane, the virus suddenly becomes a very serious issue. Now, let's move to our next topic. On October 28th, the Health Commission of Henan Province published a price table regarding how much money will be charged to harvest donated organs. Let me show you the price table first. So this table is downloaded from the official Chinese website, but the English translation was added by me. So you can see the right column is the price for different organs. The price unit is 10,000 yuan. So the price for an adult liver is 260,000 yuan, or about 41,000 US dollars. A child's liver is 100,000 yuan, or about 15.6 thousand US dollars. So the fees for harvesting different organs are different. It is a very detailed price table. When I first saw the price table, I was so shocked. I couldn't believe it or make any sense of it. What on earth does this mean? So I did some further research and found another official document issued by the CCP's National Health Commission in July, and it took effect on September 1st. So the title of this document is Human Donor Organ Procurement Fees and Financial Management Methods. The document has 5 chapters, 27 items, and is about 3,000 words long. It says that the purpose of making such a document is to promote human organ donation and transplantation, further standardize the management of human donor organ procurement fees and financial management, continue to enhance the accessibility of human organ transplantation services, maintain the public welfare of human organ donation, and promote the high-quality development of human organ donation and transplant, etc. Why do fees need to be charged for procuring donor organs? Because there are costs involved, and the costs include the following. 1. Donor medical support costs. This includes the cost of donor and potential donor evaluation, organ function maintenance, testing, examination, transport, and death determination, etc. 2. Cost of sample retention, mainly for medical needs, such as retaining the donor's blood, urine, and other tissue specimens. 3. Costs for repair and aftercare of the remains, including the cost of transferring the remains, funeral, autopsy, etc. 4. Organ donation management costs. 5. The cost of organ harvesting surgery. 6. Organ medical support costs, including organ quality assessment, organ preservation, organ repair examination and testing, etc. 7. Organ transfer costs. 8. Costs related to the organ donor's family, mainly including their transplantation, accommodation, out-of-work allowance, and other costs during the period when the organ donor's family is handling organ donation matters. The document says that every province should make their own price table for the fees, and the fees should be charged by the organ transplant hospitals, and hospitals should then give the money to the organ procurement organization or OPO system. The document doesn't say who should pay the organ procurement fees, but after carefully reading it, one can work out that the organ recipients will be paying the fees. They pay the transplant hospitals, and the hospitals will then transfer the money to the OPO system. Perhaps you might argue, what's the big deal there? Other countries also have OPO systems and are doing the same thing. Well, when the same thing is done by the CCP or the same techniques are used by the CCP, it is a totally different story. First of all, let me show you 3 different CCP official news reports about the organ harvesting issue. So, the title of the first report is Claims about China is harvesting executed prisoners' organs are sheer lies. This report was published on April 11th in 2006, shortly after the crime of forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners were exposed for the first time by the Epoch Times. At that time, the CCP knew that it is unacceptable to harvest executed prisoners' organs, so it tried to deny it. The title of the second report is Health Commission. Executed prisoners are the main sources for China's organ transplants. This report was published on March 7, 2012. At that time, the crime of forced organ harvesting of living Falun Gong practitioners have become more widely known and was too difficult to cover up. Also, as the CCP couldn't explain where it got so many organs to do so many organ transplants every year, it thought it was better to admit that the organs were from the executed prisoners than to let people think that the CCP was killing people on demand for their organs. So it admitted the fact that it denied 6 years ago. The title of the third report is Health Ministry. We don't rely on executed prisoners for organ transplants 2 years later. This report was published on March 5th, 2013, when the crime of forced organ harvesting of living Falun Gong practitioners and other prisoners of conscience have become too difficult to cover up, and when the CCP wanted to create a persuading source of organs to continue with the hugely profitable business of mass killing innocent people for the organs. I wrote an article back in 2017 to talk about these 3 contradicting official reports and kind of predicted that the CCP would create a system so that it could just count the killed as voluntary donors. So this latest CCP regulation and the price table show that, unfortunately, what I feared has come true. The CCP is further whitewashing its forced organ harvesting and mass killing by this similarly regulated OPO system. I'm afraid that from now on, since the CCP claims that this industry is further regulated, more people will be killed and drop into that black hole of the CCP's OPO system. Also, in 2017, when the CCP just started to boost its newly established organ donation system, I wrote another article titled Alarming Figures, Calculations, and Crime Laundry Attempts. In that article, I calculated the ratios or conversion rates between the number of registered donors and actual organ transplants of China and the US. So these are the results. The numbers are taken from official Chinese and US websites. So in 2016, China had about 307,000 registered organ donors and did about 15,000 organ transplants. So the so-called conversion rate is 0.048. And in the US, the conversion rate was only 0.00025 because US had 134 million registered donors and had done 33,600 organ transplants. So China's conversion rate is 192 times of the US rate. The Independent People's Tribunal, China Tribunal, chaired by Sir Geoffrey Nice, or Nice, I don't know how to read it correctly. Anyway, he led the prosecution of the former president of Serbia and the UN's International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. So this China Tribunal led by Sir Geoffrey Nice did the same kind of calculation with the numbers of 2017. And these are their figures and results. So you can see from this table that the ratio between eligible donors and the registered donors in China in 2017 is 0.0137. It had 375,000 registered donors that year and 5,146 eligible donors. The same ratio for the US is 0.000077. It had 140 million registered donors and 10,824 eligible donors. So China's rate is 178 times of the US rate. So what does this mean? It means that the registered donors in China have to be dying nearly 200 times faster or easier than the registered donors in the US, right? Or to put it another way, the possibility of a registered donor in China to die and to become an eligible organ donor is nearly 200 times higher than that of a registered donor in the US. Is this possible? I think for any reasonable person, it is not possible whatsoever. Either you have to purposely kill the registered donors in China for them to be used for an organ transplant, or the numbers and the entire system of the so-called voluntary organ donation system in China are all faked. Now, to make this faked system look more real, the CCP has further regulated it with price tables for organ procurement. What saddens me is these calculations are so simple that even a grade 4 elementary student can do. But some Western doctors, professional organizations, universities, and even some experts and the transplant society are so willingly buying the CCP's lies and nonsense. They not only offer technical training to Chinese doctors who kill people for their organs, but also cover up for the CCP and even work together with the CCP. In 2016, the Transplant Society held an International Transplant Congress in Hong Kong and invited many Chinese doctors. Before that Congress, the Transplant Society published an open letter about its interactions with China. So the letter says, with respect to China, it is our impression that there has been a change in policy and practice in China. With the leadership of Dr. Jiefu Huang, the chair of China Organ Donation and Transplant Committee, there has been a progressive period of reform in organ donation. Then it goes on to repeat the CCP's propaganda and then says, this event precedes the public announcement by the Chinese government on the ban of the use of organs from executed prisoners and the statement that the only legal source of organs was from citizen donation. During this time, I and other senior members of our society have visited several transplant centers in China, and to the best of our ability, we believe that these centers are no longer using organs from executed people, and that organs from deceased citizen donors are allocated by a centralized computerized organ allocation system called COTRS. It really pains my heart to see Western experts endorsing the CCP's lies. I really want to ask these people, do you know how many people have been killed for their organs? Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, please subscribe to and share my channel, and go to my website at jenniferzengblog.com. Sign up and become a member of Inconvenient Truth, or make a donation to support me so that I can continue my truth-telling efforts. Thank you. Now that's all I plan to say. This actually is the first time I do live streaming since I moved to my home studio. So I'm now checking whether there are any questions for me so that I can respond. So seems there are a lot of comments. Okay. Wow, thank you. There are a lot of comments. Let me read a few at the end. So Daniel Veche says, Jennifer, I'm so thankful you are here to share this news. Richard Scott says, oh, thanks Dragon Slayer, then can the countries that allow these organs to be imported should be highlighted? Yes, I do think so. At least I think as citizens, we can share what we learn, and on other ordinary citizens, don't ever go to China to do organ transplant, because that means you could be help the CCP killing another human being. Or if you have any person in the medical community, I think we do need to communicate with them what the CCP has been done with their own innocent citizens as the organ donors. So Richard Scott says, Georgia selling of one of own organs is a terrible choice to have to make, but a state that murders its citizens for cash is unacceptable on any situation. Yes, indeed, that is. And unfortunately, the CCP has doing this for decades. I think it first started during Cultural Revolution, maybe at that time in small scale and only on executed prisoners. And then gradually, and especially since the crackdown of Falun Gong started in 1999, the number of the organ transplants suddenly jumped so sharply. So the only explanation is they have used the Falun Gong practitioners as the main organ source, and there are dozens of different evidence that is already out there in all these years by different experts and human rights lawyers and journalists. So if you search for those, I think there is a website called organabuse.com. And also, if you search for China Tribunal, I mentioned in my report, you can see on their website the judgment they release and the evidence they found. So definitely there are tons of evidence if only people care to search online and do some research and find those. And Richard Scott said, yes, a culture that believes that the body should be buried whole means that even the percentage of those who donate and even smaller amount. Yes, actually, there is an organization called the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong did make some phone calls to the so-called Red Cross Association or the donation center of different cities. And actually the people, the staff member who answered the phone said they actually had very, very much, they encounter a lot of difficulty to recruiting any registered numbers, because that is not in the Chinese culture for people to donate their organs yet. And also because I think the Chinese people, they just don't believe the government at all, and they don't believe the Red Cross system at all, because there was once a huge scandal exposed that there was huge corruption inside the Red Cross system. So they know if they donate whatever, even their organs to the Red Cross, it won't end it up landing with the people who really need them. It could be sold and used by the CCP officials. So the number I shared, like those 300,000 some kind of donated or donors, that's according to the CCP's number. But I really doubt that number is really true. But even according to their fake number, the ratio is still 100 times higher than the US ratio. So the stories just can't make up. Nobody should believe that the CCP is doing what they say they are doing. So that's a lesson to learn, I think. Okay, seems there are no more questions, and I think I've talked for about 30 minutes. Maybe that's long enough for one show. So I'll end the show here and see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.